I'd given everything to Foster Farms and Orchards, my wife's family business, for years. Long nights hunched over soil analysis reports, endless meetings with distributors, and every ounce of effort I could muster to make it grow. It wasn't just a job to me. It was a promise I'd made to Emma when we got married, a way to prove I belonged in her world. So when she and her sister Olivia called me into the farmhouse office that morning, I figured it was about the new irrigation plans I'd been working on. I walked in with a stack of papers, ready to talk harvest projections, but the air felt wrong. Emma sat there, arms crossed, her face blank like she barely knew me. Olivia leaned back in her chair, smirking like she'd just won something. "Daniel," Olivia started, her voice sharp and cold. "We're letting you go. We don't need lazy people dragging us down." Lazy? The word hit me like a slap. I'd been up until 2 a.m. the night before finalizing a deal with an organic distributor they'd almost botched. I glanced at Emma, waiting for her to say something, anything, to defend me. She didn't. She just stared at the table, her fingers tapping lightly like this was nothing to her. My chest tightened, but I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I forced a polite smile, the kind I'd used 1,000 times to smooth things over with difficult buyers, nodded once, and said, "All right, good luck." Then I turned and walked out, my footsteps echoing on the old wooden floorboards they'd left behind. The rest of the day blurred past me. I drove home in a daze, the steering wheel slick under my palms from sweat I didn't realize was there. Our house, hers, really, with its wide porch and view of the eastern fields, felt emptier than usual when I stepped inside. I dropped my keys on the counter and sank into the couch, staring at the ceiling. How could she do this? After 8 years of marriage, after all I'd poured into her family's farm, she let Olivia fire me like I was some seasonal picker hired off the street. My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me out of the spiral. It was a text from Michael, the accountant who'd been with me through every late-night harvest budget crunch. "Heard what happened," it read. "I don't think they read your contract." I frowned, rereading the words. My contract. I hadn't thought about it since I signed it years ago, back when Robert, Emma's dad, was still running things. What did Michael mean? I typed back a quick, "What's in it?" But he didn't reply right away. I leaned back, the gears in my head starting to turn. If there was something in there, something they'd missed. Maybe this wasn't over yet. I got up and poured myself a glass of water, trying to shake the sting of Olivia's words. Lazy? I'd rebuilt their distribution network from scratch when it collapsed 3 years ago during that blight season. I'd secured the Whole Foods account, the one that kept us afloat during that rough patch. And Emma, she knew all of it. She'd seen me stumble home exhausted, kissed me goodnight when I fell asleep at the kitchen table with soil sample reports still open. Yet today, she didn't even look at me. I took a sip, the cold water doing nothing to ease the heat building in my chest. Was this her idea? Did she want me gone too? Or was she just too weak to stand up to Olivia? I didn't know which hurt more. My phone buzzed again. "Michael, check the land trust clause from the expansion deal." The expansion deal? 5 years ago, when we acquired that adjacent property to boost Foster Farms' production capacity. I'd been neck-deep in it, negotiating terms while Robert clapped me on the back and called me his right hand. A land trust clause? What did that even mean now? I set the glass down and rubbed my temples, the first flicker of hope, or maybe something darker, stirring inside me. I spent the next hour digging through old files in my home office, the ones I'd kept from back when I trusted Emma to have my back. The contract was buried in a folder labeled FF Expansion 2020, yellowed at the edges but still legible. I skimmed the pages, my eyes catching on legal jargon I barely understood until I hit page 17. There it was, in black and white. Daniel Mitchell appointed co-trustee with full authority over land parcel assets. Assets that included Foster Farms water rights, specialized growing techniques, and the seed bank, the whole backbone of the farm's success. My heart thudded. They couldn't fire me from that. It wasn't their call. I sat back, staring at the paper, a slow smile tugging at my lips. Not the polite one this time, but something real. They'd made a mistake, a big one, and they didn't even know it yet. I picked up my phone and texted Michael. "Found it. What now?" His reply came fast. Sit tight. Let them figure it out. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of the day shifting. They thought they'd cut me loose, but they'd just handed me the rope. All I had to do was wait. The morning after they fired me, I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing, cutting through the quiet of the house like a knife. I rolled over, the bed cold on Emma's side. She hadn't come home last night, probably crashing at Olivia's after their little victory. The screen lit up with Robert Foster's name. Her father, the man who'd built Foster Farms from nothing and trusted me with it when I married into the family. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the button. What did he want? To apologize? To gloat? I answered anyway, my voice rough from sleep. Hello. His voice boomed through the line, loud and furious like a storm rolling in. Daniel, why the hell did they fire you? Haven't they read the damn contract? I froze, the words sinking in, slow and heavy. Robert didn't know. He hadn't been in that farmhouse office. Hadn't seen Emma's blank stare or Olivia's smirk. I let the question hang there, not sure how to answer, or if I even should. I don't know, Robert, I said finally, keeping my tone steady. You'd have to ask them. He cursed under his breath, something about those girls and ruining everything, but I barely heard it. My mind was already racing back to that land trust clause Michael had tipped me off about, the one buried in my contract. Robert's anger meant something big was coming, and I had a feeling I was holding the key to it. I got out of bed and shuffled to the kitchen, the phone still pressed to my ear. The house felt too big, too silent without Emma's usual morning chatter or the clink of her coffee mug. I made myself a pot of coffee, the smell filling the air as I replayed Robert's words. Haven't they read the damn contract? He sounded panicked, not just mad, like he knew something they didn't. I poured a cup and sat at the table, staring out the window at the gray sky. Yesterday, I'd been blindsided, kicked out like trash. But now I was starting to see the cracks in their plan. That expansion deal from 5 years ago wasn't just some footnote. It was a lifeline, and I was still tied to it, co-trustee of the land trust with control over everything that made Foster Farms worth a damn. I took a sip, the bitterness matching the taste in my mouth from how they treated me. If Robert was this worked up, it meant Emma and Olivia had no idea what they'd stepped into. And I wasn't about to tell them. My phone buzzed again. A text from Michael this time. Robert just called me too. He's losing it. Said the girls screwed up big. I smirked, typing back. He called me first. What's he saying? Michael's reply came quick. Kept asking about the trust terms. Think he's worried about the water rights. The water rights, of course. Foster Farms wasn't just a name. It was built on the reliable irrigation system I'd helped secure. Without my signature, they couldn't adjust the flow allocations, couldn't sign off on new plantings. I set the phone down and leaned back, the coffee warming my hands. Yesterday, I'd felt like a fool, walking out of that farmhouse office with my tail between my legs. But today I was starting to feel like the one in control. Robert's call wasn't just a rant. It was a warning, one Emma and Olivia hadn't heard yet. I wondered how long it would take them to figure it out. How long before they came crawling back. I spent the rest of the morning pacing the house, my mind spinning with what-ifs. What if they tried to fight it? What if they called their fancy lawyers? I didn't know much about legal stuff, but I knew enough to trust Michael and Robert. If he was this mad, it meant the trust agreement was ironclad. I stopped by the window again, watching a delivery truck rumble down the gravel driveway. My whole life had been about keeping things steady, fixing problems at the farm, smoothing things over with Emma when she got stressed, even biting my tongue when Olivia snapped at me during harvest planning. But steady didn't matter anymore. They'd pushed me out, and now they were about to find out what that cost them. My phone rang again. Robert, round 2. I picked up, ready this time. Daniel, he said, quieter now, like he'd worn himself out. I'm sorry about this. I didn't know they'd pull something so stupid. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. It's done, I said. But what's in that contract, Robert? What's got you so riled up? He paused, then let out a dry laugh. You're still co-trustee of the land trust. They can't run the farm without you. I didn't say anything, just let that sink in. He was right, and they didn't even know it yet. I was still reeling from Robert's call when the reality of it all started to settle in. heavy and real, like a weight I could feel in my bones. Emma and Olivia had fired me without a second thought, but now they were about to find out what that really meant. It was late afternoon when Michael texted me again. They're in a meeting with the lawyers. Word is they just read the contract. I could picture it. Emma sitting stiff at the head of the farmhouse table, Olivia pacing like a caged animal. Both of them staring at those pages like they'd turned to poison. I didn't have to be there to know what they'd found. 5 years ago, when we bought the adjacent property to expand Foster Farms production, I'd been named co-trustee of it. It wasn't a big deal back then, just a title Robert threw in to keep things smooth during the acquisition. But now it was everything. That trust owned all the water rights, the specialized growing techniques, the seed bank that kept the farm alive. Without my sign-off, they couldn't do a damn thing. I sat on the couch, the contract spread out on the coffee table in front of me, and let that sink in. They tried to cut me out, but they'd locked themselves in a cage instead. I leaned forward, running my finger over the words on page 17. Daniel Mitchell appointed co-trustee with full authority over land parcel assets. It was right there, plain as day, signed and stamped. I remembered that day vaguely. Robert laughing over beers after the deal closed, saying I'd earned it. I hadn't thought much of it then. I was just happy to be part of the team. But Emma and Olivia, they'd never bothered to dig that deep. They'd taken over the farm from Robert last month, all smug and sure of themselves, and figured they could toss me aside like yesterday's harvest. I wondered what their faces looked like now. Pale, probably, with that pinched look Emma got when she was stressed, and Olivia's mouth twisted tight with anger. They'd brought in some hotshot lawyer from Portland, Taylor, to help with the transition. I'd met her once, cold as ice, with a handshake that felt like a challenge. She'd be the one breaking the news, I bet, her voice flat as she told them they were screwed. I got up and walked to the kitchen, needing to move, to think. The house was still too quiet, Emma's absence like a ghost hanging around. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, popped it open, and took a long swig. What were they doing right now? Yelling at each other? Blaming Taylor? I could almost hear Olivia's voice, sharp and loud. How did we miss this? And Emma, quieter, trying to stay calm even though her hands would be shaking. They'd thought they were so smart, firing me in front of everyone like that, making it a show. But they didn't know the half of it. Without my approval, they couldn't adjust irrigation schedules, couldn't certify organic compliance, couldn't even access the bank accounts tied to the trust's assets. It was all frozen, and I was the only one with the key. I took another sip, the cold bottle sweating in my hand, and felt a strange mix of anger and satisfaction bubbling up. They'd humiliated me, but now they were the ones stuck. I went back to the couch and picked up my phone, scrolling through old messages from Emma. Just last week, she'd texted me about dinner plans. All casual and sweet. Home by 7? Let's order from that new Thai place. Now she couldn't even look at me. I tossed the phone aside and stared at the contract again, my mind racing. What would they do next? Try to talk me into signing off? Threaten me? I didn't know Taylor well, but she struck me as the type to twist words into knots, looking for a loophole. Good luck with that. Robert had made sure this thing was airtight. I leaned back, closing my eyes, and let myself imagine their panic. The distributors would hear about this soon, and the organic certifiers too. People would start asking questions, and Emma and Olivia wouldn't have answers. I wasn't sure what I'd do yet. Part of me wanted to watch it all burn. Part of me just wanted them to admit they were wrong. But one thing was clear. They'd underestimated me, and that was their biggest mistake. The beer was half gone when my phone buzzed again. Michael with an update. Taylor's freaking out. Says they need your signature or the whole farm's dead in the water. I smirked, setting the bottle down. Dead in the water. That sounded about right. They'd built their castle on sand, and I was the tide coming in. I didn't reply to Michael yet. I needed to think this through, figure out my next move. But for now, I just sat there, the contract in my lap, and let the quiet of the house wrap around me. They'd find out soon enough what it meant to cross me. And when they did, I'd be ready. I decided to keep my mouth shut. Total silence, no matter how much they tried to pull me back in. The day after Michael's text about Taylor freaking out, my inbox started lighting up. First came an email from Olivia. Short and snippy, like she was doing me a favor. Daniel, we need to discuss your exit terms. Call me. Exit terms? I almost laughed. She still thought she was in charge, like I was some loose and she could tie up with a quick chat. I didn't reply. Then Emma texted, her words careful, like she'd rehearsed them. Can we talk? This got out of hand. Out of hand. She'd sat there while her sister called me lazy and kicked me out of the farm I'd helped build. I stared at the message for a minute, my thumb hovering over the screen, but I didn't type anything back. I tossed the phone on the couch and walked away. They didn't deserve my words. Not yet. If they wanted to squirm, I'd let them. I had the upper hand now, and I wasn't about to give it up just because they were starting to sweat. I needed to clear my head. So I drove into town, the familiar country roads blurring past as I replayed everything in my mind. The contract, Robert's call, Michael's updates. It was all piling up, but I wasn't ready to act. Not until I knew exactly what was happening on their end. I pulled into a little coffee shop I used to hit with Grace, Robert's old assistant, back when we'd grab lunch between deliveries. She'd always liked me, said I was the only one who treated her like a person instead of hired help. On a whim, I called her. Daniel, she answered, her voice warm and surprised. I heard what those girls did. You okay? I smiled despite myself. I'm fine, Grace. Just figuring things out. What's the word over there? She laughed, low and knowing. Chaos, honey. Absolute chaos. She told me distributors were calling nonstop, confused about delayed shipments. The irrigation system was running at minimum flow, threatening next season's crops. Organic certifiers were holding paperwork, waiting for approvals that weren't coming. They're running around like headless chickens, she said. And that Taylor, she's snapping at everyone, but she's got no answers. I ordered a coffee while we talked, the barista sliding it across the counter with a nod. I took a sip, letting Grace's words paint the picture. Chaos. Good. They brought this on themselves, thinking they could toss me aside and keep everything running smooth. I thanked her and hung up, settling into a corner booth with my drink. The place was quiet, just a few people tapping away on laptops, the hum of the espresso machine in the background. I leaned back, staring out the window at the gray day outside. Emma's text kept nagging at me. This got out of hand, like it was an accident, like she hadn't chosen to sit there and let it happen. I'd loved her once, really loved her. Those early years when we'd stay up late dreaming about the farm's future, her head on my shoulder. But now she was a stranger, and I wasn't sure I wanted her back in my life, even if she begged. I took another sip, the coffee bitter on my tongue. They could send all the emails and texts they wanted. I wasn't budging. My phone buzzed again. Another email, this time from Olivia. Longer and dripping with that fake politeness she used when she was mad. Daniel, we're trying to resolve this amicably. Ignoring us isn't helping. Let's meet and sort it out. Amicably? Right, like firing me in front of the whole seasonal crew was amicable. I deleted it without a second thought. Grace's voice echoed in my head. Distributors panicking, crops at risk, certifiers freezing up. That was their mess now, not mine. I didn't know them a lifeline. The contract gave me power, sure, but it was my silence that was really hitting them. Every hour I didn't respond. Every day I stayed quiet. Their world crumbled a little more. I finished my coffee and left the cup on the table, the warmth still lingering in my hands as I stepped outside. The air was cool, a light wind tugging at my jacket. I felt steady for the first time since that farmhouse office, like I was standing on solid ground while they flailed. Driving home, I thought about what Grace said, how Taylor had no answers, how the staff were whispering about jumping ship. It wasn't just about the water rights or the seed bank anymore. It was about trust. They'd lost it with the distributors, with the certifiers, with everyone who'd kept Foster Farms afloat. And me? I didn't have to say a word to make that clear. I pulled into the driveway, the house looming dark and empty, and sat in the car for a minute, engine off. My phone stayed quiet now. No more messages. No more pleas. Maybe they were finally getting it. I wasn't their fix-it guy anymore. I wasn't theirs anything. I got out, locked the car, and went inside. The silence of the house matching the silence I'd chosen. Let them figure it out. Let them fall. I'd been quiet for days, letting Emma and Olivia stew in the mess they'd made, when I finally decided it was time to break my silence. But not to them. Not yet. The farms board had been emailing me nonstop, polite at first, then pushy, asking for clarity on the operational delays rocking Foster Farms. I could have ignored them too, let the whole thing collapse under its own weight. But something in me wanted them to know exactly what was happening and why. So I sat down at my desk, the contract spread out like a map, and typed up a reply. Not a rant, not a plea, just the facts, cold and clear, from me, Daniel Mitchell, co-trustee of the land trust they'd forgotten about. I laid it out, the trust clause from 5 years ago, my legal authority over the water rights and how, without my signature, nothing could move. Not the irrigation schedules, not the organic certifications, not a single shipment. I didn't ask for my job back or beg for forgiveness. I ended it with one line. I'm asking for accountability, not reinstatement. Then I hit send, copied every board member, and leaned back in my chair, the weight of it lifting just a little. They'd wanted me gone. Now they'd see what that cost. The house was still empty, Emma's absence a constant hum in the background, but I didn't mind it as much today. I got up and made myself a sandwich, ham and cheese, nothing fancy, while my phone stayed quiet. Too quiet, maybe. I figured the board was scrambling, passing my email around like a hot potato. Robert had half of them in his pocket. Old-timers who'd watched me grind for years, while the newer ones probably sided with Emma and Olivia, dazzled by their big talk. My email would split them down the middle, and I was fine with that. Let them argue. Let them pick sides. I took a bite of the sandwich, the bread sticking to the roof of my mouth, and wondered who'd crack first. Robert had already called me twice since that first rant, leaving voicemails I hadn't answered yet. Daniel, we need to fix this, he'd said in the last one, his voice rough. Fix it. He'd handed the farm to his daughters, and they'd broken it. That wasn't my problem anymore. By evening, my phone started buzzing again. Text from Michael, who'd somehow become my eyes and ears without me even asking. Board's freaking out, he wrote. Half want to bring you back. Half think the girls can lawyer their way out. I smirked, typing back. Let them try. Taylor might be sharp, but she couldn't rewrite a trust agreement that had been signed and sealed years ago. I set the phone down and walked to the window, the sky turning orange as the sun dipped low. Rumors were starting to swirl, Michael said. Whispers that the board might offer me full control of the trust operations. Cut Emma and Olivia out completely. I didn't know if I wanted that. Part of me did, sure. The part that still stung from Olivia's lazy jab and Emma's cold stare. But another part just wanted them to admit they'd screwed up, to look me in the eye and say it. I crossed my arms, watching a tractor roll by outside. Power was nice, but accountability? That was better. I went back to my desk, the sandwich half-eaten on a plate, and pulled up my email again. Replies were trickling in now, careful ones, like they were afraid to pick a side. One guy, an old friend of Robert's named Tom, wrote, Daniel, this is a mess. We didn't know about the clause. What do you want out of this? I didn't answer. What did I want? I wasn't sure yet. Yesterday I'd been happy to watch them sink, but now, with the board dangling options, I had to think bigger. I leaned back, rubbing my eyes. The farm was paralyzed, distributors stalling shipments, crops at risk, certifiers holding back. All because Emma and Olivia thought they could run it without me. My email hadn't just stirred the pot. It had tipped it over. I could hear their voices in my head, Olivia yelling, Emma trying to stay calm, and it almost made me smile. Almost. The night stretched on, and I didn't sleep much. Just sat there with my thoughts and the hum of the fridge in the background. Michael texted again around midnight. Heard Robert's pushing for a meeting. Wants you in the room. I didn't reply. A meeting sounded like a trap. Get me in. Smooth talk me into signing something. Pretend it never happened. But the board splitting? That was real. If Roberts half pushed it, I could come back on my terms, not theirs. I got up, grabbed a glass of water, and stood in the kitchen. The cold tile under my feet, grounding me. They'd fired me like I was nothing, but now I was everything. The leverage was mine, and I wasn't giving it up cheap. Let them fight it out. Let them beg. I'd wait. I was in the middle of making coffee, the pot gurgling on the counter, when my phone rang. Emma's name flashing on the screen. I stared at it for a second, the sound cutting through the quiet morning like a warning. She hadn't called since the firing, just sent those careful texts I'd ignored. Part of me wanted to let it ring, keep the silence I'd been holding on to, but curiosity got the better of me. I picked up, keeping my voice flat. Yeah. There was a pause. Then her voice came through, softer than I expected, strained like she hadn't slept. Daniel, can we meet? Please. I didn't say anything right away. Just let her words hang there. Meet? After everything? I could hear the desperation under her tone, the crack in that cool front she'd kept up in the farmhouse office. What? I asked finally, leaning against the counter. She sighed, a shaky sound. This whole thing, it's a misunderstanding. I want to fix it. A misunderstanding? I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just said, okay. Noon, that place on 5th, and hung up. I set the phone down, the coffee smell filling the air, and wondered what she'd try to pull. I got to the restaurant early, a little spot we used to go to back when things were good, with worn tables and soft lighting, the kind of place that felt warm once. Now it just felt like a stage for whatever this was. I sat in a corner booth, sipping water, watching the door. Emma walked in right on time, her coat pulled tight around her, her face pale and tired. She saw me and forced a smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes, then slid into the seat across from me. Hey, she said, her voice light, like we were just catching up. I nodded, keeping my expression blank. Hey. She fidgeted with her napkin, then leaned in a little. Daniel, I'm sorry about how this went down. It wasn't supposed to be like that. I raised an eyebrow, waiting. She kept going, her words tumbling out now. Olivia pushed for it, and I didn't know how to stop her. We can work this out, right? You don't have to freeze everything. I listened, my hands still on the table, not smiling, not moving. She was trying to charm me, like she used to when she'd messed up. Big eyes, soft voice, all of it. But it didn't hit the same anymore. The waiter came by, and she ordered a salad, her fingers twisting the menu before she handed it over. I got a burger, keeping it simple. When he left, she tried again. We need you, Daniel. The farm's a mess without those approvals. Can't we just put this behind us? I took a sip of water, letting her stew for a second. Then I heard Olivia's voice in my head, lazy, and saw Emma's blank stare from that day. I set the glass down, slow and deliberate. A mess, huh? Funny how that works. She blinked, caught off guard. But before she could answer, I kept going. You didn't say a word when she fired me. You just sat there. Now it's a misunderstanding? Her face flushed, and she looked down, picking at the napkin again. I didn't want it to happen like that, she mumbled. Olivia said we needed a clean break, and Taylor backed her up. I thought. She stopped, like she knew it sounded weak. I leaned forward, my voice low. You thought what? That I'd just take it. She didn't answer right away, and then the food came, breaking the tension for a second. I took a bite of the burger, chewing slow, watching her poke at her salad like she'd lost her appetite. She glanced up, trying a new angle. Olivia's the one who pushed it. She convinced me it was best for the farm. Taylor said it was legal. I swallowed, setting the burger down. Taylor's wrong. And Olivia doesn't get to pin this on anyone. You both signed off on it. Her eyes widened, like she hadn't expected me to push back so hard. Daniel, please, she said, her voice cracking. We can fix this. Just sign off on the trust stuff, and we'll figure out a role for you. A role? Like I was some kid begging for a spot at the table? I wiped my hands on a napkin, looking her dead in the eye. You fired me like a stranger, Emma. Now deal with the consequences. She went still, her fork halfway to her mouth, then set it down. You're really going to let the farm fall apart? She asked, almost whispering. I shrugged, taking another bite. Not my call anymore. You made it yours. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, and I could tell she didn't know what to say. The charm wasn't working, and the excuses were running dry. I finished my burger while she sat there, picking at her food, the silence between us thick and heavy. When the check came, I paid for mine and stood up. Good luck, I said, same as I'd said in the farmhouse office, and walked out. She didn't follow. I didn't look back. I woke up the next morning with Emma's words still rattling around in my head. "You're really going to let the farm fall apart," she'd said, like I was the one breaking everything, not her and Olivia with their stupid power play. I rolled out of bed, the sheets tangled from a night of tossing, and made my way to the kitchen. The house felt emptier every day, but I was getting used to it. I brewed some coffee, the hiss of the machine filling the silence, and decided it was time to stop waiting. They weren't going to fix this themselves. I had to push harder. So I sat down at my desk, pulled up the contract again, and drafted a notice. Not to Emma, not to Olivia, but to every partner Foster Farms worked with, distributors, certifiers, the whole list. I kept it simple. All water allocations and land trust agreements tied to the expansion property were frozen until new terms were negotiated. No threats, no drama, just the truth. I was the co-trustee, and without my say-so, nothing moved. I hit send, copied the board, and leaned back, the coffee mug warm in my hands. Let's see how they handled that. The day went quiet after that. No calls or texts, just the hum of the fridge and the occasional car outside. I figured they'd need time to feel it. Time for the emails to land, for the panic to set in. I wasn't wrong. By afternoon, my phone started lighting up. Not from Emma or Olivia, but from distributors. First was a guy named Paul who ran an organic market chain we supplied. "Daniel, what's going on?" he asked, his voice tight. "We can't get shipments, and our produce section is half empty." I kept my tone calm. "Professional. I'm handling it, Paul. Sit tight. New terms are coming." He grumbled, but hung up. And then another call came. Then another. Certifiers asking about inspection schedules. Partners worried about spring planting. I gave them all the same line. I was on it. Things would clear up soon. They didn't need to know I hadn't decided what soon meant yet. I just wanted them calm. And Emma and Olivia scrambling that I was on my fourth call when Michael texted. "Cash flow's dropping. Staff's talking about leaving." I smirked, finishing up with a distributor before texting back. Good. Good didn't even cover it. This was what I'd waited for, them feeling the weight of what they'd done. I pictured Olivia storming around the farmhouse, yelling at anyone who'd listen, and Emma trying to keep it together while the numbers dropped. They'd thought they could run the show without me. But now fields were drying up, shipments were stalling, and I was the one getting the calls. One message stuck with me, though, not from a distributor, but from Hannah, the packaging manager I'd always liked. She texted out of the blue. "Heard what's happening. If you start something new, I'm in." I stared at that for a minute, my thumb hovering over the screen. Start something new? I hadn't thought that far, but the idea stuck. I replied, "Appreciate it. I'll keep you posted," and set the phone down, my mind spinning. By evening, the fallout was clear. Michael called, his voice buzzing with energy. "Daniel, it's bad over there," Michael said. "2 field managers quit today, and a big distributor just pulled their contract. They're blaming Taylor now. She's out the door too." I leaned against the counter, the kitchen dim as the sun set outside. "Taylor's gone?" I asked, surprised. "Yeah," he said. "Olivia threw her under the bus, said the firing was her idea. She's packing up tonight." I shook my head, almost feeling sorry for her. Almost. She'd been part of it, pushing that legal angle to Emma and Olivia, but now she was just another casualty. I thanked Michael and hung up, grabbing a beer from the fridge. The cold glass felt good in my hand as I walked to the living room and sank into the couch. The farm was collapsing piece by piece, and I'd barely lifted a finger. That notice had done the work. Short, sharp, and straight to the point. I took a swig, the bitterness matching the mood. Emma's face from lunch flashed in my mind. Pale, pleading, trying to charm her way out. She hadn't called since, and neither had Olivia. Maybe they were too busy fighting each other now. Or maybe they were finally getting it. I wasn't playing their game anymore. Hannah's text kept nagging at me, though. Start something new? Could I take the water rights, the distributors reaching out, the people like her who'd follow me, and build something better? I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The farm was falling apart, sure, but I didn't want it to just die. I wanted it to hurt them first, then rise again on my terms. I finished the beer and set the bottle down, the quiet settling in. They'd feel this tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. And when they were done falling, I'd be ready to stand up. I was halfway through breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, nothing special, when my phone rang again. Robert's name popped up, and I knew this wasn't just another rant. I wiped my hands on a napkin and answered, keeping my voice steady. Hey, Robert. He didn't waste time. Daniel, we've got an emergency board meeting tomorrow. I need you there. Not as an employee, as executive trustee of the land holdings. Can you do it? I paused, the fork halfway to my mouth. Executive trustee? Not back to my old job, not begging for scraps, but a seat above Emma and Olivia, with real power. I set the fork down, my mind racing. What's the deal? I asked. He sighed, heavy and tired. The farm's bleeding out. Distributors are gone. Staff's leaving. And the board's done with the girls' mess. We're voting on new terms. Olivia out of operations, Emma down to production manager. You in? I leaned back, the chair creaking under me. This was big, bigger than I'd expected. Yeah, I said finally. I'm in, but it's on my terms. He laughed, a short, rough sound. Good. See you tomorrow. He hung up, and I sat there, the eggs going cold, feeling the shift happen right under me. The rest of the day, I kept busy, cleaned the kitchen, checked the irrigation specs, reviewed the growing records. Anything to keep my hands moving while my head worked it out. Robert was handing me the reins, or at least a big chunk of them. Olivia out of operations meant she'd be sidelined, probably stuck in some back office if she stayed at all. Emma as production manager? She'd hate reporting to me, but she'd have no choice. I smirked, reviewing the latest soil analysis reports. They'd fired me like I was nothing, and now I'd be the one signing off on their every move. IT wasn't revenge. Not yet, but it was close. I finished up and went inside, grabbing a glass of water and checking my phone. Michael had texted, board's buzzing. Robert's pushing hard for you. I typed back. He called. I'm in tomorrow. His reply came fast. Hell yeah, they're done. I set the phone down and took a long drink, the cold water steadying me. Done, maybe. But I wasn't just here to watch them fall. I wanted to build something out of it. The meeting was early, 9 a.m., and I got there on time, dressed sharp, clean work shirt, good jeans, boots. The farmhouse office felt different now, not like the place where they'd kicked me out. I walked in, head up, and saw the faces turn, some surprised, some relieved. Robert sat at the head, his jaw tight, and nodded at me. Emma was there, pale and quiet, her hands folded in front of her. Olivia sat next to her, arms crossed, glaring like she could burn a hole through me. I took the seat Robert pointed to, right near him, and waited. He started fast. We're here because Foster Farms is dying, he said, his voice cutting through the room. Daniel's notice froze everything, and we can't move without him. I'm proposing he comes back, executive trustee of the land trust. Olivia's off operations. Emma's production manager. Vote it now. The room went still, then hands went up. Robert's crew first, then a few others. It passed quick and clean. Olivia shoved her chair back and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. Emma didn't move, just stared at the table. I didn't say much during the meeting, just listened as Robert laid out the damage. Lost contracts, empty fields, angry distributors. When it was my turn, I kept it short. I'll unfreeze the water rights when we've got new terms that work. I'm not here to sink it. I'm here to fix it. Nods around the table, even from the ones who'd hesitated. Emma finally looked up, her eyes meeting mine for a second before dropping again. She knew it was over. Her big takeover, her sister's grand plan, all of it. The meeting wrapped, and people filed out, Robert clapping me on the shoulder as he left. Good to have you back, he said. That I nodded, but I wasn't back. Not like before. This was new, and it was mine. Emma lingered, gathering her things slow, like she wanted to say something. I didn't wait. I walked out, the farmhouse behind me, and headed to my truck. The air outside was cool, the sun just climbing, and I felt steady, grounded. Back home, I sat at my desk, the contract still there like a trophy. The vote was done, but the work was just starting. I'd have to unfreeze the water rights soon, get distributors back on board, stop the bleeding. But first, I needed terms, rules that kept Emma and Olivia in check, That made sure no one could pull this again. I grabbed a notepad and started jotting ideas, my pen scratching across the page. Olivia was gone from the front lines, and Emma, she'd have to swallow reporting to me. I smirked, imagining her face in meetings, trying to keep that cool mask on. This wasn't the end. It was the start, and I was ready. I woke up the next morning with a clear head, the board's decision still fresh and real. The sun was just creeping through the blinds as I made coffee, the pot hissing like it was cheering me on. Executive trustee. Those words kept rolling around in my mind, heavy but good. Emma and Olivia had tried to shove me out, but now I was back, higher up than ever, and they couldn't touch me. I took my mug to the desk, the contract still sitting there, and started planning. The farm was a mess. Distributors gone, staff thin, fields neglected, but I wasn't here to just patch it up. I wanted it stronger, better, and free of the entitled nonsense they'd brought in. I pulled out my laptop and started typing, laying out a new structure. Merit-based hires. Clear rules. No more family favors. Emma could stay as production manager, but she'd answer to me now. And Olivia? Her apology email came in overnight. Daniel, I'm sorry. Let's talk. But I didn't bother replying. She was out of the game, and I had work to do. First thing, I called Michael. He picked up quick, his voice bright. Boss man. Heard the news. Congrats. I smiled, sipping my coffee. Thanks. I'm making you operations director. You in? He laughed, loud and easy. Hell yes. When do I start? I told him today. Right now? Get in. Clean up the books. Figure out what we could save. He was loyal, smart, and didn't mess around. I needed him. Next, I texted Hannah, the packaging manager who'd offered to jump ship with me. VP of distribution? You still mean it? Her reply came fast. Absolutely. I'm there. I nodded to myself, adding her to the list. New talent, people I could trust. That's how we'd turn this around. I spent the morning sketching it out. Cut the dead weight. Bring in fresh faces. Rebuild from the ground up. The old Foster Farms was gone. This was mine now, and I'd make it work. By noon, I was back at the farm. Not my old office, but a new space they'd cleared out. Big windows and a view. Emma was already there, sitting in the operations center with some of the field staff, her face tight, but professional. I didn't go in, just watched through the glass for a second. She glanced up, saw me, and looked away fast, like she couldn't hold it. Good. Let her feel it. I settled into my chair and started emails. Distributors first, short and straight. Water rights, unlocking soon. New terms coming. Stick with us. A few replied quick, relieved, saying they'd wait. Then certifiers, same deal. We're sorting it. Inspections resumed next week. The responses piled up, cautious but hopeful, and I could feel the tide turning. This wasn't just about holding power. It was about using it right. Afternoon hit, and I called the first meeting. Me, Michael, Hannah, and a few others I cherry-picked from the old crew. Emma had to be there too, part of her production manager role, and she walked in last, her boots clicking sharp on the floor. She sat across from me, hands folded, eyes on the table. I didn't waste time. We're restructuring, I said, passing out my notes. Merit hires, no favoritism. Michael's operations director. Hannah's VP of distribution. Emma, you'll handle production. Daily reports to me. She nodded once, quick and stiff, not arguing. Michael grinned, flipping through the pages, and Hannah leaned in, already tossing out ideas. We went for hours, budgets, timelines, new planting plans, building something real, while Emma sat quiet, taking notes. She tried to keep her dignity, her voice steady when she spoke, but I could see it wearing on her. Every decision ran through me now, and she couldn't dodge that. After, Michael hung back, clapping me on the shoulder. This is solid, Daniel. We've got a shot. I nodded, stacking my papers. Yeah, just keep the budget tight. He left, and I stayed, watching the office empty out. Emma lingered too, gathering her stuff slow, like she was working up to something. Finally, she came over, her voice low. This how it's going to be? You calling every shot. I looked at her, calm and steady. You wanted me out. This is what you get instead. She swallowed, her jaw tight, then turned and walked away. I let her go, the door clicking shut behind her. She'd stay in line. She had to, or she'd lose what little she had left. I wrapped up late, the sky dark outside, and drove home, the radio off, just my thoughts for company. The farm was shifting, new blood, new rules, and me at the top. I'd given Grace a call earlier, offered her a fat exit package to retire happy, and she'd cried, saying I was the best of them. Maybe I was. I pulled into the driveway, the house still quiet, but it didn't feel so hollow now. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about making something that lasted, something they couldn't ruin. I'd keep Emma on a leash, ignore Olivia's groveling, and build it my way. Tomorrow I'd start again, and it'd be better than they ever dreamed. That I woke up early, the house still dark, and felt a quiet kind of strength settling in me. Something steady, like the ground after a storm. Months had passed since the board meeting, since I'd taken the reins as executive trustee, and Foster Farms was finally breathing again. I made coffee, the familiar gurgle filling the kitchen, and thought about how far we'd come. Distributors were back, loyal and steady, their trust rebuilt with every shipment I'd signed off on. Investors had returned too, pumping money in once they saw the yields climb. Emma stayed distant, doing her job as production manager, but never pushing me, never daring to step out of line. Olivia was long gone, her apology email still unanswered in my inbox. I didn't need her groveling. I'd moved past it. Today wasn't about them anymore. It was about locking in a legacy, making sure no one could ever be tossed aside like I was. I sat at my desk, the contract still there like an old friend, and started writing the final piece. New bylaws, a clause to protect the farm and me for good. The farm was buzzing when I got in, the air alive with people who actually wanted to be there. Michael had the books in shape, his grin wide as he waved me over. Numbers are up again, he said, sliding a report across my desk. Best quarter in years. I nodded, flipping through it. Yield strong, costs down, everything clicking. Good work, I told him, and meant it. He'd stepped up, just like Hannah had. Her new distribution network rolling out smooth and sharp, pulling in buyers we'd never touched before. I'd built a team, not a family dynasty, and it showed. Emma was in her office, door closed, probably going over the production reports I'd asked for. She sent them every day now. On time. No excuses. Professional but cold. I didn't care. She lost her chance to be anything else to me. I turned back to my screen and kept typing, the bylaws taking shape. Rules for fair hires. Clear authority. A legacy clause that tied the trust to merit, not blood. No one would pull what they did again. Mid-morning, I called a quick meeting. Just me, Michael, Hannah, and a couple board reps Robert had sent. Emma had to sit in too, her chair squeaking as she settled across from me. I laid out the bylaws, keeping it simple. This protects us, I said, passing copies around. No more power grabs. No more firing people without consequences. The land trust stays with the farm, but only under leadership that earns it. Michael nodded, skimming the pages. Smart. Locks it tight. Hannah chimed in. Distributors will like the stability. The board guys agreed. One scribbling notes, the other just saying, Robert's on board. Emma stayed quiet, her pen tapping the table once, twice, then stopping. I didn't look at her long, just enough to see her jaw tighten, then relax. She knew this boxed her in, kept her from ever climbing back to where she'd been. Good. The vote was fast, unanimous, and I signed it right there, the pen heavy in my hand. It was done. After, I walked the fields, something I'd started doing to keep things real. Talking to workers, hearing them out. They smiled now. Not the fake kind from before, but real ones, like they trusted me. One guy, a new hire, stopped me. Thanks for this, Daniel. Feels different here. I clapped his shoulder, said, that's the point, and kept going. The place hummed, tractors running, irrigation flowing, crops growing. I'd unfrozen the water rights weeks after the board vote, renegotiated terms with distributors myself, and watched it all snap back. Suppliers shipped on time. Investors called me direct. And the farm thrived, not because of Emma's name or Olivia's bluster, but because I'd made it work. I stopped by the orchard, looking out at the rows of trees, the fruit heavy and bright. This was mine now, built built on my terms, and it felt right. Evening came, and I stayed late, finishing up emails, thank yous to distributors, updates to the board. Emma left without a word, her office dark when I passed by. I didn't mind the quiet. It gave me space to think. The bylaws were filed, the legacy clause locked in. No one could be discarded like I was, not without a fight. I leaned back in my chair, the desk lamp casting a soft glow, and let myself smile. Not the polite one I'd used that day they fired me, but a real one, small and sure. Revenge hadn't been the goal. Not in the end. I'd wanted them to feel it, sure. And they had. Olivia sidelined. Emma humbled. But this was better. I'd taken their mess and turned it into something stronger, something that would last. That I shut down my computer, grabbed my coat, and headed out, the farm silent behind me. Driving home, the country lights blurred past, and I felt lighter than I had in months. The house was still empty, but it didn't weigh on me now that I'd rewritten the rules, set the terms, and kept that polite smile for when I needed it. Tomorrow, I'd keep building, and they'd never forget who held it together.